Hey everyone, before the video starts, I just want to thank you all so much for the great response that we've had from everyone basically for the new channel and just the releases that have been coming out. We've been having great guests, we've been having great comments, great people like in the Discord, so thank you so much. I'm horrible at promoting my own shit, so I just want to take the time now to actually say some things before I forget and then never mention them. We do have a Discord, please go down below. It'll be there. There's some cool stuff. You'll get to see some sneak peeks. I put updates there. There's also just a bunch of dumb memes. Um, we're also on podcasting apps, so you don't have to watch it on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts soon, Anchor, Overcast, basically any of the podcasting apps that you normally would have. So please check us out there if you'd rather not watch the video. So let's just jump right into the podcast with Ardacraft. Enjoy. Hi, welcome in.
Hello.
It's a pleasure having you on, and so I'm here with Fornad. What is your role in Ardacraft? Are you the owner?
Yeah, essentially. So back in it was 2014. I founded Ardacraft, and I've kind of been running it with a few interruptions ever since.
Oh wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's perfect. I mean, you're known for Ardacraft. What is it for people who don't know? When did it start? Sort of like a general overview of the server.
Yeah, so Autocraft is a server which, kind of in a sentence, seeks to recreate Tolkien's Middle-earth, so the world from the Lord of the Rings, in Minecraft. We started out back in 2014. Some of our members were originally a part of the Minecraft Middle-earth server, which essentially seeks to do the same thing. But we decided to go down a different route. We went down a route which was modded. We went down a route using the Conquest pack, so a more high definition pack. And more generally, we were looking for more realism, more historical kind of research in our builds and all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And ultimately more accuracy to what Tolkien had in mind when he created his world. So yeah, we've been running since 2014. As it stands, we have about a third of the map done, maybe a little more depending on how you measure it. And the community has kind of stayed at a kind of steady level throughout that time. So maybe 15 to 20 active builders at any one time. So we're able to maintain a fairly good rate of progress.
So am I hearing that right? You said you've been around for 6 years and you guys have a third of the map done?
That's correct. Yeah, it's an absolutely enormous project.
And are you 1-to-1? Is that what it is?
No, far from it. No, okay. So a one-to-one map would be the size of Europe. So
like the Earth,
you know, yeah, like it would be an enormous area. So you can't do it. So what we've done is an area which is 1 to 58. In terms of area, that's about 2,500 square kilometers, about the size of like a county in England, roughly speaking. So not enormous in terms of the Earth, but in terms of like Minecraft and in terms of the fact that we have to detail everywhere, everywhere on the map, it's still a huge amount of work. So we've done well to come this far, and we hope to continue.
That's insane. So currently, as it stands right now, how big is the world? And like, if I may ask, how big is the world file? Is it big?
Yeah, so the world at the moment is about 30,000 blocks across. I think about 30 by 20,000, something like that. Eventually it'll be, I think, 52 by 48 or something off the top of my head, 1,000 blocks. And the world file currently is about 30 gigs. But again, we expect that to be, more than double by the time that we finish, maybe up to 100 gigs.
That's amazing. So what will you do when you guys finish? Like this is a big part of your life. What do you even do?
So it's a weird one, isn't it? The way I look at the project is we don't have a particular goal in mind at the end of it. It's almost like a massive art project, if you think of it that way.
Definitely.
We're not seeking at the moment anyway. This may change in the future, but we're not seeking to make this into an RPG or a game or something. Mm-hmm. Because I think if we did that, if we had that goal in mind, then people would always be looking forward to that. Like, oh, when are we going to turn this into a game? When is this going to become an MMORPG or whatever?
Yeah.
I want people to focus on the artistry of it. to make it look good and to turn it into what I believe to be the most accurate recreation of this universe that's ever been done in any game. So that's kind of our goal, and that's where we get our satisfaction from. There isn't kind of an ulterior motive beyond that point, if you see what I mean.
Oh, definitely. That's fucking cool, dude. Like how so what is your background? Are you I don't even know what would qualify you for this. You obviously love the world of Middle Earth. So where did you start like loving that sort of that world?
Well, Tolkien. So, I mean, it goes back a long way. So I'm 25 years old. So when I was around, I think I was 6 when the Fellowship of the Ring came out, the film,
Mm-hmm.
not the book. The book turned 66 years old yesterday, I think. But no, I was about 5 years old or 6 years old when the Fellowship of the Ring came out, and I think I saw it around that time as well. My memories are obviously hazy. Loved them immediately, but then only came into reading the books and getting into Tolkien's world later on. I think I was about 12 when I read Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion, which is the kind of huge backstory, almost the Bible to his world.
You
I
read that
read
at
when I was
12?
no, no, no. I read no. I read that when I was like 15. I wasn't ready for
Oh,
it
okay.
when
Yeah, I was like, that's crazy.
yeah.
I mean, even at 15, that's like that's crazy, man. That's a dense read.
It's a dense. Yeah, no one who reads the Silmarillion first time understands it on the first go. People who claim to, they're lying. They're not telling the truth. Um, so yeah, so I read that when I was like 15, and from there, I think that was around the time when I was 15 or 14 or 15 is when I joined Minecraft Middleearth, so this older server,
Hmm.
that's still running, but the vanilla server. And so the two passions kind of merged into one at that point. I'm still interested in Tolkien's world and certainly still in the academic side of things. I'm interested in that, but um, you know, my interest in recreating the world started around that kind of age.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's awesome. You went over to Minecraft Middle Earth. You wanted to split off a little bit because you mentioned modded was a differentiating factor between you two, right?
Yeah, so I mean, my original kind of reason for wanting to split off was more so the lore side of things because
Hmm.
MTME they have some fantastic builds and I won't slate what they've done. But they're very focused on recreating the world as seen in the Peter Jackson films.
Gotcha.
So a lot of their builds will be kind of direct, kind of one-to-one recreations of what you see in those films. Now, from my perspective, it's more interesting to try to recreate something that's just words on a
That's
page.
never been seen before.
Exactly, never been seen before, and also you have more creative freedom that way. You're not just copying what's been done by other artists, right? So there was that side of things, and there was also the side of me that felt that if we're going to recreate this world, we should try and do it in an accurate way, in the way that the author kind of intended it to look.
Uh-huh.
So that was my original starting point, and then the modded stuff came in later when we realized that being able modding this resource pack that we were using, Conquest, would give us so many more options in terms of our builds. Um, and it was only later on that we moved into what is now Conquest Reforged.
Hmm.
That mod was only created. I'm not sure. Creative would have to confirm, but I think that was about 2015, 2016.
Hmm.
So we started out with a mod called AC Block, so our own mod, and then we moved into Conquest Reforged later on.
Yeah, how's that process been? So when I mean, you guys are obviously a big force in that community. So when you say you need like a new block added, are they really good with that? Like just getting something added pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
they're fantastic. Yeah, so luckily one of the guys who helped me found Ardacraft, Wheelie, is one of the texturers for the Conquest Reforged mod.
Oh, that
So the two
helps.
communities, yeah, massively. So the two communities are very entwined, Ardacraft and the CR devs. They're very like tight. So if we need new blocks or whatever, these guys will be happy to provide, which is really helpful. We wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that we do without their support. So that's fantastic.
So did you ever have to redo any of your builds like from the beginning when say you made something back in 2015 or 2016? Have you gone back and like fixed it to like sort of meet a standard that you guys have now?
Yeah, massively. So that's an ongoing thing, which becomes one of these sources. I wouldn't say a source of tension, but it's definitely like a debate that people have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because on one side you have, we need to continue building this world because there's so much to do, and we just need to push onward and continue doing new projects, right? But then there's the other side that says, well, there are these iconic locations, like the Shire was the first build we ever did, right, back in 2014, 2015,
Hmm.
and sort of it grew increasingly outdated as time went on, as we got new blocks, as we got better at building, as we got better at researching our builds and pulling from history and all this stuff that we do nowadays. We did some of that back in the day, but things have changed. Things have got better, and so there are that side of the community that says, look, we need to update these builds because these are our these are iconic builds, these are important builds, and they need to look as good as the rest of the server does. So what we do is we kind of have our server in a way split between some people who are doing what we refer to as revamps, so revamping the Shire, making the Shire look better. But then most of the community is still focused on kind of pushing onwards, doing new builds. And it's a fine balance. It's a kind of tightrope that you have to walk right between the two things, especially when you have such a huge map and such a relatively limited number of builders. It's something that you have to manage carefully.
Yeah, how do you manage your builds? Like, obviously you have an application process for builders. Like, that's not unique, but how do you guys, like, with this huge world that you want to create, how do you sort of section off, like, okay, you guys are gonna work on this, or is it just what they choose they want to work on, or what?
So our project system was actually developed based on the way that Ardacraft run their builds. So you'll have people who are qualified builders and who have successfully applied can
Mm-hmm.
now apply for projects, right? So they pick a project, they say that's open, and they say I want to build this project. They put together an application taking everything into account they need to take into account. They present it to us on the forums, and then the overseers, who are like the kind of managers of the server, and I will take a look at the application and decide if it's good enough or if it needs some edits or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll approve it, and then they crack on with that. Um, so that's the way that we run projects. Generally speaking, these days, or the way we've always run it, in fact, is I determine, right, these are the areas that we need to focus on, right? Because there is a danger of people just going off and doing all their own things and like 20 projects running at once, and so nothing much gets done. It's important to like focus your attention on specific areas at any one time so that things actually get done.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's one of these balances that you have to make between spreading out your resources so that people don't get too burned out on one style or one area, but also not being too spread out so that there's no progress made. The way that we do it, especially these days now, is we'll have a project lead for a region. So say like a region of Rohan. So say the Westfold is one of these regions. In fact, the picture behind us is from Helm's Deep, which is one of the builds in the Westfold.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have a project lead for the entire region. They'll apply for that entire region and they will direct that entire region. But then individual projects within that, so villages, homesteads, castles, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
will be applied for by individual people within that. So it's kind of like almost family tree is probably the wrong way of putting it, but there's layers as you go down from kind of big overview stuff all the way down to individual buildings, and it kind of works in that kind of hierarchical manner, and it seems to work.
Yeah. So you guys have it all figured out. I mean, 6 years is a long time. I'm sure you've had time to figure that shit out.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly, and we try
there's
stuff out and what works, doesn't work, and we figure things out over time.
there's Gimli behind us, creeping. Um, I actually, speaking of Creative Realms, he actually had informed me earlier that on the topic of the Mines of Moria, you guys have to deal with the height limit, right? So how are you guys dealing with that?
So yeah, so Moria is a funny one. It's going to be, well, not quite unique on the server, but fairly unique in that most of the time what we'll do is we'll build stuff within the map, right? So everything that on the massive terrain that we have, we build stuff on there,
Mm-hmm.
and it all fits together, and it's all a single world, right? The issue with Moria is you need to fit this enormous kingdom, with lots of halls and stuff under a single mountain chain, right? And because of the height limit, you have to contend with that, and it makes it difficult. So what we've done is one of our devs has set up an automatic teleportation system. So you go to the west gate of Moria, you say the word in game, the doors will slide open, you walk in, and then you get teleported instantly to an identical version of that world, but hosted on another map.
Mm.
But that other map is completely filled with stone from height limit all the way to bedrock, and we have complete freedom to build within that. Additionally, you may remember in the film and also in the book when Gandalf falls from the bridge and he falls all that way, fighting the Balrog, and they
Yeah.
hit That obviously is very difficult to do within the height limit. So again, we have another teleportation system set up so that as you fall from the bridge, you get teleported to the top of another world, you go down again, teleported to the top of another world, go down again, and you do that I think 3 times, so that you get the full sense of falling a very long way. And so there's lots of different tricks that we can put in place that make this place feel bigger than it would be if we just did it all on a single map.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty ingenious. I was thinking like a mod to increase it or something, but I guess you really do have to worry about like compatibility moving forward, right? Like if a if an update comes out and you want to update to Minecraft 1.16 or something, and a mod you were relying on for like a core functionality like that doesn't work, then you're kind of screwed, right?
Yeah, so we experimented with this back in the day. There was a mod, I don't know if it still exists, called Bibliocraft,
Mm-hmm.
and and it let you have like chairs
Yeah.
and bookshelves and stuff in the game. And we wanted that at the time, and it was when we were building the Shire, I think. But that didn't get updated, and so when we had to update, a lot of stuff was broken and had to be
Mm-hmm.
fixed. And we
Right.
learned at that time, like we need to rely on as few as mods as possible. So the only mod that we are reliant on is Conquest Reforged. Everything else we can do without, essentially. Well, add Optifine, I guess. So everything else we can do without. So something like cubic chunks, which is I think known for its bugginess and incompatibility with other mods and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that we would want to kind of hang our hats on, and it's something that we can kind of do without. We're able to build the world without. So in terms of our mountains, we have a sea level set at Y20, a lot lower than it is in default. So we're able to create much larger, bigger terrains and more interesting terrain.
Ah,
So there's
gotcha.
all sorts of tricks that we have to kind of overcome that.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So, what is your favorite build on the server? What are some of your favorite builds? Because I'm gonna be cutting between some footage that I'm gonna capture later, and I wanna know like what would, I mean, obviously the Shire, Hobbit, and stuff like that, but what is your favorite?
Um, Part of me as the admin, as the impartial observer of everything should. I feel like I shouldn't have favorites,
You're like a
but
parent. I have no
yeah,
favorite child.
exactly. That's it. But if I had to choose, it would be number one would be Rivendell. I think a lot of people would feel that way. It's one of these builds that you see it for the first time, and I still come back to it occasionally, having seen it many times, and I'm still blown away by it. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's just a perfect mix of terraforming and terrain and nature, and then also a fantastic build in the middle of it. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Awesome. So there you go. You can see it.
What? How did?
I don't know how that was done, but there you go.
Okay.
Magical means.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rivendell is fantastic. There's also something it's been done recently. Edoras, which is the capital of Rohan, is absolutely fantastic. Again, it's that merger between a fantastic build, but then also behind it you have these huge, imposing mountains that have been done really well. So again, it's that combination which I really think Ardacraft excels at between nature and builds. So yeah, Edoras. What else? That springs to mind. So when we built Mython back in the day, the Grey Havens, and for a long time that was kind of the crown jewel of the server. It's getting a little outdated these days, going back to that previous discussion of
Mm-hmm.
things getting outdated with time, but certainly that still holds a sort of nostalgic place in my heart. Where else? I could go on. Thorin Tools, huge dwarven mine complex in the Blue Mountains, which was done last year. Again, absolutely fantastic and huge, and you get lost in there easily. But there's so many, and we've done so many builds. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we are now, I don't know how many projects. I think maybe over 200. I think projects since the start of Autocraft. So there's a lot to choose from. It's a big world.
Wow. Well, where can people find out more about the server, and maybe if they're interested in building, where can they go for that?
Yeah, so we have a site, artacraft.me. If you search for us on Google, you'll find us very easily. We have Planet Minecraft. We have all sorts of different pages that you can find. So yeah, if you want to log on, we have a launcher which you can use. It's very easy to launch and use. If you're already Conquest Reforged, you can join using that as long as you have our the Ardacraft overlay. But all this information is on the website.
Yep.
You can look around and discover the world for yourself. And if you want to help build, that would be amazing. And that is done through our applications process on the forums. And again, that's all explained using signs. And you can ask any player on the server as well how it works. We're we're a friendly bunch, so we'll help you out.
Yeah, I popped on yesterday just to make sure that my installation was working, and I got like three people being very nice to me and asking me, what's up, if I needed any help or wanted like a tour or anything. So, yeah, definitely very friendly community you got going on there. But enough talking. Do you want to jump over to the server? That'd be kind of cool, and maybe we could take a look at some of the ones that you had mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. So here we are. We're here in Hobbiton.
Indeed, yeah. Well, this is in fact Bag End, which is at the sort of north end of Hobbiton, made famous, of course, by Frodo and Bilbo, who both lived here at various times. Yeah, we can start by having a look around inside and
Sure.
take a look at some of the blocks we have. So the first cool thing, which you'll see, is we have a little animation mod, which enables you to open up these doors. And you have that in a few places.
Oh wow! Look at this. Oh, it's so cozy in here.
Yeah, that's really the main theme that the guys redoing Bag End, and indeed the entire Shire over the past few years have been focusing on, really making you feel comfy and cozy and kind of, like you would want to live here, right? Like this is the narrative purpose of the Shire, is to be the kind of home for the protagonists and kind of the place they look back on kind of nostalgically in their travels. So yeah, we wanted to give that sense of of home, really, more than any other place on the map.
What do you think it is about this world that made it live on this long? I mean, I feel like there's very rarely this amount of enthusiasm for any sort of fictional world.
It's difficult to say, isn't it? I mean, there's so many reasons. I think the thing that took me, I can't speak for other people, but I remember when I read Lord of the Rings, the first time I read it, and indeed the first time I saw the film, it was that sense of, you start out in the Shire and it's kind of this small area, and there's kind of this, interesting thing about the ring, but you feel like there's a little mystery about that, but generally speaking, you're just kind of in a small world, and there's not much more beyond that. But then they start to go out beyond it, and they start to explore the world, and they find these ruins of these ancient civilizations, and you start hearing about all these heroes and the ancient kind of legends and all this stuff. And you realize that this is only a tiny part of a much wider, more ancient world that they're coming into, right? So there's that sense of history and that sense of almost like this could have been a real place that you get so little from other fantasy writers, right? I think oftentimes, in other books, they'll just jump right into the story and they're interested in the story that they want to tell. But for Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings was only the kind of epilogue to a much longer and larger story, and you really get that feeling when you read it, that this is only a small story in a much larger world, and there's so much more going on. And so for me, that's the appeal of it.
It really is like a fully fleshed out world, right? Like obviously I always say it wrong. How do you say it? The Bible.
The Silmarillion.
Yeah, I mean that in itself. It's like it's almost information overload. If you want to know anything, you just go there, and that's very rare, because you're right. Like most fantasy stuff, they'll only tell you just as much as they need to get the story done, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that was just one interior of a building, and as far as I know, like most of these buildings have interiors, right? Do all of your buildings?
Every single building has an interior.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, and not only does it have an interior, but they'll all have a purpose, right? So we try to do our research with our builds. So like this, for example, I mean, Hobbiton is a weird one because Tolkien actually drew a sketch of Hobbiton. At least he drew the sketch from kind of where I am looking north, right? So all these buildings you'll see on this sketch, we know that this one on the right with the tower is a mill. This one on the left is a grange, so a place to store fodder and hay and stuff. So we know what these buildings were and where their placements were. But for places that weren't so detailed, we'll do our research. We'll make sure that the appropriate kind of professions are represented. You'll have a baker, you'll have a smith, you'll have a butcher, you'll have all these different things that you would get in a village. This here is the local post office, the one with that I'm standing in front of. So yeah, you'll have a whole range of different professions represented wherever you go. The Shire is very, English. It's very kind of 19th going into early 20th century England was kind of the environment that Tolkien grew up in. And so that's what we are drawing on mostly for the Shire. But you go to other areas, so for example, Rohan,
Hmm.
and that's mostly drawn on drawing on kind of Anglo-Saxon, Norse myths and kind of culture to develop that region. So we'll go there in a little bit just to show you the contrast. But there's all sorts of different areas that have kinds of different influences that we draw on. We do the research for.
I'm marveling at the just the you guys have better foliage, so it just looks so good.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, better
Overgrown.
foliage is, yeah, exactly. It's that sense of nature and kind of everything being, integrated into the landscape, which is really important, of course, for the Shire in particular. So this is Bywater, little village just down from Hobbiton. This here is the Green Dragon, which you may remember
Hmm.
being one of the key drinking establishments for the hobbits.
Oh, this is cool. There's so many blocks. Like I get why you guys use Conquest Reforge. Like there's so much variety in all this. It's really a cool showcase for it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it's a mod that I couldn't imagine us not using. I mean, vertical slabs alone, right? Like you just look at this corridor here. Like this would look so much worse if you didn't have that kind of smooth, you know, um, look to it that's
Yeah.
created with those slabs.
Have you guys thought? Well, I mean, this is a little bit too late in the process, but like about putting NPCs to represent like key characters, or are you just doing world?
So that would be one of those things that like you would want to think about towards the end of the project. So like if we were to do, as we were talking about earlier, if we were to do a sort of RPG thing,
Hmm.
then that's something we'd consider, going back through the world, adding in NPCs. Um, I don't know what the technical demands of that would be. I'd imagine they'd be quite high, right, to fill a world like this with
Yeah,
characters.
probably.
So it's something we'd have to look at. But yeah, that's something I've thought about. But yeah, it's one of those things that we just haven't come to yet. There's a lot of work
Oh yeah.
otherwise.
Well, also, I mean, on the flip side, I think that this sort of it's like a living diorama. This whole thing because like without people, it's almost really cool. It's like you're on a miniature. You're like a god looking over this giant Lego set essentially. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really cool that I kind of like that it's empty and everything's sort of still life.
It's almost like a snapshot, isn't it? Like
Exactly.
the smoke is all still, and yeah, exactly.
So
So I see what you mean.
I had the Shire. I was while we were talking, I just wanted to write down some of the things you had mentioned so I could get shots. But um, I had Helm's Deep, Moria, Rivendell, Rohan, and Thorin's Halls. Which one would be nearest and best to go to?
Nearest probably. Well, we can go to Rivendell,
Okay. Okay.
and then go from there. I'll TP you now. Make sure to set your renders quite high for this. It's going to take a bit of loading in.
Okay. Yeah. What's the server that you guys run on? I mean, obviously you have to pretty beefy thing for people running uh super high render distances all the time, right?
Yeah, so what we do, I think what the server does is it limits render distance to 16, but if you set it higher and you kind of fly to those areas and then fly
Uh huh.
back, it'll stay loaded. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just so we're not sending loads of information to people at once. But yeah, so if you like fly around and load the whole thing in,
Wow, this is insane. So, what do
yeah.
you guys use World Painter or what do you guys use?
So we use a combination of tools actually. So World Painter is for the majority of the world. We do World Painter, and that's kind of my job. My
Hmm.
main job on the server is the kind of terrain artist for the majority of the world. But when it comes to locations like this, where we want a lot of detail, we want to get things really right and looking a certain way, we'll use Voxel Sniper, which is kind of a tool that we rely on to create these areas as well.
Hmm.
So there's a whole variety of tools that and World Edit, of course. So we're able to use a whole variety of tools to, you know, ensure the look that we want.
This is insanity, Rivendell.
Yeah, it's
Oh my god, that's so really cool. Yeah, it's just like nestled in this valley.
exactly, yeah, and it's the description that Tolkien gave. He was inspired when he I think he was 19 years old. He travelled to a valley in Rivendell in Switzerland, which is a real place, called Lauterbrunnen in the Swiss Alps. If you look at pictures of that, it's absolutely stunning, and we really drew inspiration from these like cliff, really cliffy walls and really steep-sided valley, but then a kind of quite green and almost flat bottom to the valley. where you would find this sort of elven house nestled, this kind of stronghold
Hmm.
in a hidden valley, and that was the sensation we wanted to get. And obviously, you go inside, and instantly you can tell that it's very different from the kind of Hobbit architecture that you saw before.
Yeah,
Much
it's
more grand, much more.
high art kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So in here, this is the Hall of Fire. So this was kind of the area that they would come to in the evening to kind of talk to each other, to sing songs and all that kind of thing
Hmm.
of the old. And then in here, this is the feasting hall, which is probably the most imposing room in the whole building.
Yeah, I like this. I like the high ceilings and the chandeliers. So is this part of your kind of overlay right here? This
Yes, this
okay.
is one of the many sort of custom paintings that we have. In fact, if you follow me, I can show you a room where we really put those to work. It's kind of like almost a museum or an area where they keep important artifacts and kind of preserve that memory, which is all what Rivendell was all about, right? It has a huge library. It has this kind of store of history and memory
Wow.
of stuff that was otherwise lost. But you can see all these beautiful paintings, a lot of which we've drawn from kind of famous Tolkien artists and kind of brought them into the game, which is really nice. It produces quite a cool effect.
It does. I'm also very shocked at how. I mean, also this is another shout out to Conquest Reforge, but how sort of close to Minecraft you've kept it. Like you don't go too hyper realistic. It's still very obviously a block based game.
Yeah, and I think that's the aesthetic. I think a lot of people, there are some like photorealistic resource packs. I don't know if you've seen those.
Oh yes, yeah,
But they're
definitely.
they just look really weird. Like they look wrong in the game because you've got this like block that's clearly a block, and then it's covered in 512 by 512 detail. It's just wrong.
Hmm.
This is a 32 by 32 pack, which I think is a nice balance between you can get the detail in, but also it kind of preserves the pixelated nature of the game. And it's a balance you have to strike.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, do you have like a style guide, or just like I guess you said that there's project leads for each region, so do they have like editor sort of powers in the way that like they can nix anything that they don't like? That doesn't fit in with the style that we go for here, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So a project lead has almost complete control over what they want. Once they're given approval, that's it. They are now the kind of person who runs it. They determine the style. They make sure that the standards are adhered to. So yeah, they'll essentially. We can go and look at a project that's in progress actually right now if you want to see
Sure, yeah.
how that works. So this is a this is a project in Rohan, an area that's called the West End, a very low-lying, very wet area of Rohan. So here we go. We've got a little style guide that we just walked in front of. So like this is what we want the houses to look like in this area.
Oh, that okay. I didn't realize that
Yeah.
this was floating. Okay, cool,
No.
cool.
Yeah. So that's like the guide, and then below us you can see people have started to. So this was opened up a couple of days ago, and people have started to fill out the houses. So you see, there's like these woolen templates, right? It's like it says the rough position and whatever, and then people actually go in and build the thing and make it look proper. So yeah, that's kind of how it runs. And then above the templates, you can see there are these little planning blocks, right? So like you've got one up here, which was built by this guy, who is it? Ix, his name is. So that was placed, and the project lead has approved it. So he's put the approved blocks on there. This one has not been approved for various reasons. Not sure why, but this is the kind of organizational side of things. So this is how we ensure that everything is done properly. There's kind of oversight, there's quality control for everything that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. What's
And
6 beds? Sorry.
6 beds means just the number of people living in this house. This is how many.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because as well as there's all this other stuff that goes into the world. So one of the other things we do is we have population estimates for each region. So we want to make sure that each region is kind of appropriately populated. It's not too full, it's not too empty.
Get the fuck out of here! Seriously? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Wow.
So we go in. So Rohan as a whole, as a kingdom, we're aiming for 8,500 beds total, which is an expression of, we think there's, in Rohan 1-to-1, 500,000 people. And then we are a 58th of the size of actual Middle-earth. So our population in Rohan would be a 58th, so equating to about 8,500. So yeah, 8,500 beds means quite a lot of villages to
Yeah,
build.
for sure. Yeah, okay, I see it taking shape here.
Yeah, absolutely. We can go and look at a finished Rohan build now to
Sure, yeah.
see what sort of thing looks like. So this is in fact the capital of Rohan. There are many other villages and settlements, but this is the largest of them, and it's sort of I think it's about 1,000 beds here. Took us about a year and a half, I think, to build. So you can just look through
A
a
year
bit
and a
of
half just
a
for
year and a half.
this?
Yeah, if you fly around, you'll see how big it is. But additionally, it wasn't the only project we were working on during that time as well. We were doing many other things at the same time, but it's still pretty extensive. Um,
Yeah, I don't think I can load this in one
yeah.
view distance. Like it's fading out in the distance. Oh, what's this huge building over here?
So this is Medicel, which is the king's hall. So this is the king of Rohan, where he hangs out. And we actually held a competition for this. So we had something like 15 or 20 entries, people who wanted to create their own version of this hall. But we settled on this one in the end, and it's pretty spectacular.
Oh, I like the animations. They're so cool.
So yeah, the Anglo-Saxon and Norse
I see it.
influences,
Yeah.
yeah, are really big.
And there it is, the throne.
Yeah, I mean, you just take a look at our time map to see how large of a kingdom this is. We think this is probably one of the larger, you know, kingdoms ever made in the game in
I was
terms of
gonna,
just sheer number of people.
yeah, I was gonna ask like it. I mean, what is the largest structure or largest sort of community built thing in Minecraft? Do you know off the top of your head?
So, I mean, there's Westeros right, which is another
It's
similar
pretty
project to this. In
ambitious,
fact,
yeah.
yeah, very ambitious. They're also modded like we are. They use a 32 by 32 pack like we do, and we sort of have a lot of similarities with them. I think their project as a whole, their sort of continent as a whole, will be smaller than ours when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a single, like Westeros is like well, it's technically 7 kingdoms, right? But it's all ruled by a single king. So yeah, I guess in that sense, it's larger. There's a few others. There was one I remember years ago that was trying to recreate Beijing from like 1751 or something, 1 to 1. I don't know if that's like still going. But, there's various mega projects out there,
Yeah.
but we're certainly one of the ones that's still going. I think there's quite a lot of those ones that have kind of faded out over the years.
Yeah, what do you
Um,
attribute to your longevity?
Um, it's hard to say really. I think there's a few things. Probably one of the main things has to be the enduring popularity of Tolkien's work, right? Like that's something which, I mean, I think famously, Lord of the Rings was the second best-selling book in the 20th century after the Bible, right?
Right.
And that was even before the Lord of the Rings films came out and have won the most awards of any film series ever. So there's that enduring popularity of that series and those films. I think additionally, our kind of commitment to quality and our commitment to making, this map as good as possible. I think, the passion that people have for it kind of entices other people into the project as well. I think, there's that kind of snowball effect where, you put that work in and people will see that work and appreciate it and will want to help out and contribute what they can as well. So I think it's probably those two things more than anything. Let's look at Thorin's Halls. I think as kind of maybe a final thing. We haven't looked at anything dwarven yet, so this is way at the other side of the map compared to where we just were. We probably travelled about like 30,000 blocks from where we were. But yeah, this is up in the northwest of Middle-earth, and this is a refuge of the dwarves. So I don't know if you've seen the Hobbit movies or read the Hobbit, but after the dwarves were kicked out of Arable by Smaug, they kind of fled as refugees and they came here to a pre-existing mine, but which they kind of built upon and developed with time and turned it into this huge complex. So again, this is one of these animated doors, I think. I'm not sure how to operate it. I know there's like an operation system. It's one of these things where you have to actually go up and press the appropriate lever or something. I don't know. I can tell. I mean, I'm sure you believe me.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
But yeah, and then the main hall is pretty extensive. But this goes on forever.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I never watched the Hobbit movies, but I read the books as a kid. and
Yeah.
I do remember this, and this is very cool to see come to life in front of me. It's really
Yeah,
weird.
so this isn't actually something that you see in The Hobbit. You only hear about it kind of briefly. The Arable, which is the mountain where the dwarves actually want to retake, that's something we haven't done yet, and that's going to be even bigger than this is. This is kind of just almost. This is something that only appeared in a few sentences, in Tolkien's writings, and
Mm-hmm.
we spent like 2 years doing it.
That's
he, only,
insanity.
he probably only wrote like a paragraph about it in total. You know.
So is
Yeah.
this like it? There's a whole functioning city in this.
Yeah, completely functioning, so completely self-sustaining, other than the food, which we think, well, either they hunted it, so in the mountains around about, or they traded with the hobbits in the Shire for the kind of vegetables and crops that they
Mm-hmm.
grow there, in exchange for the kind of metals and craft work that the dwarves produce here in the mines and from their various workshops and stuff. The thing about the dwarves is they've always been known as kind of the great craftsmen and the great smiths. They've always been the most one of the most skilled groups of people in Middle Earth. So that's what they generally tend to do is they don't bother with farming. They let other people do that for them. They kind of trade with them for food, but otherwise everything else is self-sustaining. So you'll see markets everywhere. You'll see professions um, just in this hall alone, but you can go out and explore the rest of the mines, which are absolutely vast. I don't know how many rooms there are and how many halls there are in here, but I would say number of halls, maybe like 20 big ones, and then lots of smaller rooms, and obviously all the dwellings and the houses and stuff. It's kind of, yeah, it's mind blowing, and it's only one of, I think, 11 mines in the Blue Mountains total. It's the largest of them, but
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah, yeah,
How
it's
do
a lot of
you
work.
how do you retain all of this knowledge? You're just like a
Oh, retain it. Oh, I mean, as I said, I've been running the project for 6 years, right? And
yeah.
I've taken other people on tours, and I've helped oversee a lot of this stuff. So it all just kind of sticks in the memory over time. Yeah.
I'm in like some sort of I don't even know. It's like cages with blood.
Oh, I think this is like I think this is like the cockfighting arena that they have. I'm pretty sure
Oh,
it used just to, make animals fight each other and stuff. Yeah. I don't think they weren't animal rights activists. These guys.
yeah. It's what you get dealing with dwarves in Middle Earth. Oh, that's a cool. Oh, this is cool. It's like a little mess hall.
Yeah. I think this is one of the. Yeah, this is what if you go in here. I've lost you on TP. So I think this is one of the elevators down to the mines. I'm not sure if you can get down here or not. Let's see. I'll fly down and see if I can teleport you. Okay. So this is at the bottom of the mine shaft. You can see this is. I think this leads down to the mines. Yeah. So this is one of the main kind of corridors leading into the mines beneath the main settlement. So the way that we kind of develop these mines is, or we have them in our mind, is these tunnels all started out as mines, and they all started out getting the iron ore and stuff out of them, and then when they get depleted, they get turned into residential areas and streets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see other areas of Thorin's halls that look kind of like this, but they'll have like houses and stuff dug into the side of them, and it's almost like an underground street. Whereas this bit is still kind of like an active mine, and it's still being used.
Whoa! I don't. I just heard like a loud sound. I think that might have just been a cave sound.
Yeah, it's probably a cave sound. Freaky. But these go on forever. Like you can come in here, and this is one of the side passages, and you can really get into the kind of cramped spaces.
What the fuck? Yeah, and there's like piles of little rubble here. It's wow. Yeah, no stone is unturned, for lack of a better phrase. Here, you guys really go all out.
Yeah, and this is something that we often say this when we're building stuff. Like, no one's ever going to see this. Like, it's entirely possible that you'll build something like this, one of these little tunnels, and no one will ever come in here ever again.
It's a high probability, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. But it's that fact that someone might come here and might find it. And that's the thing, right? It's that attention to detail, which is evident everywhere you go, right? And that's the kind of our driving force behind everything we do.
This is awesome. So I have Moria, if we could go there. If that would be,
So
is that?
well, very, very not started. Like we've done
Oh,
like a
gotcha.
very basic plan.
Okay,
I can show you something that might give you a sense of the scale. Actually, I can show you our 1 to 10 like wool plan that we have going, which is
sure.
quite good. So this is 1 to 10.
What the hell
So
am I looking at?
it's yeah, it takes a while to process. So every block you look at here represents a 10 by 10 square of blocks underground, right? Um, so that should give you an idea of the scale of what we're doing. All the different colors represent the different levels in Moria. So the colors made out of wool are the what I call the levels in Moria, and the ones made out of stucco, I think it is, yeah, are the deeps. Um, and the different levels. So like the first one up here is a 1, 2, 5, 6 leveled world, right? And then the thing I was talking about earlier with the teleportation,
Mm-hmm.
that's below it, right? So you get teleported from here down to here, and then you fall and you keep teleporting all the way to the water down here at the bottom. This takes a little while to process because it's so huge.
Yeah, again, I can't get people coordinated to do anything, and you guys are making a world like it, and these people are doing it out of just pure passion, right? Like it's crazy that you. I mean, I guess it's not crazy, but it seems like a lot of very well done planning. Like that seems to be a secret to your success as a
And
server.
it's something that we've learned over the years is like if you don't plan something out before you do it, it's going to be a complete nightmare, especially with something as big as this, as big as Moria, which is going to be the largest single build that we have on the server. If you don't plan this out, with absolute detail beforehand and make sure everything is done correctly, then it's just going to turn into a complete mess as soon as you start it. Whereas if you have it all planned out, you know what you're going to do before you start, then it's just a matter of building, right? And you can focus on the artistry.
Yeah.
Of things.
Wow, this really sort of puts into perspective how big it is, because this is a 1 to 10 of your build, which is a 1 to 58. So that's like one block is like 580 blocks, right?
So not quite. It's a little weird with Moria. So Moria is a slightly different scale to the rest of the map. I think Moria is a 1 to 19 scale model, right? So every one block is actually 19 meters in the real Moria. But yeah, I mean Moria, I think was like 30 or 40 miles across. In reality, it was like insane. So we obviously have to scale that down, but it's not as scaled down as the rest of the map, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you wanted to preserve sort of the majesty and the huge,
yeah, exactly, the grandeur of it, which you really have to get across to people. I remember on the MCME, the Minecraft Middleearth server, when I was originally on there, when they built Moria for the first time, it was like it's something that just blew people away more than anything else, right? Because it was just this so huge and so intricate and vast that you couldn't get your head wrapped around it. And this is going to be, even more, even more so, right?
So what is these? What are these like tendrils that are coming off? Like these green glass tendrils that I'm following. Right
so
now.
The glass. Okay, so this is a whole other dimension I haven't even spoken about yet. So the glass types represent different rock layers in Moria. So we go into geology as well when we build our map. So like different areas will have different geologies. So like Helm's Deep, for example, all the terrain around there is all limestone. So you get caves and stuff, and you get interesting rock formations. But you get other areas which are granite, and so you'll get. We look into we used to have a professional geologist on the team, and we still.
You had a what?
A professional geologist.
Really?
Yeah, who did a lot of advising of different rock layers and on the map. So like you go to different areas on our map and you'll see different areas made out of different kinds of rock, and that will dictate the kinds of structures and terrain that you will see in these different areas. Yeah, it's a whole different thing. I didn't even speak about, but
yeah. You failed to mention the professional geologist you had on your team, but that's fine.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff to get across to someone when I try to introduce this.
I bet. Well, that's why this whole thing started because I wanted to interview Creative Realms about Conquest Reforged, and then it sort of turned into like, holy shit, your server community is crazy. Like, so I wanted to see. I wanted to see
So I
just like
created
what the breadth of what you guys can do with this. Well, what am I looking at?
So this is Isengard. This is Fortress of Saruman, which you see in both the Two Towers and the Return
Ah,
of the King.
yes. Oh, so the
Um,
huge Yep, there it is, just loaded.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, this is one of those projects which really merges the build and the nature together really nicely. If you look at the gardens around here, we're really quite proud of these intricate gardens that you have around the tower. This is incredibly well detailed. The tower is obviously filled with stuff. The walls around the edges are all where his army and his servants lived. So those are all kind of hollowed out. And there's
Oh, they
rooms
lived in
and
the
there's
walls?
yeah, yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. And there's also tunnels underground. So this is kind of it's not pre-corruption, right? Because he's already corrupted by this point, but he's trying to keep it secret from the world.
Right, his
So all of
eye
the
is in
greenery
there,
and
right?
stuff. No, you're thinking of
Oh, I'm an idiot. Yeah.
no, different guy, White Wizard.
Right. No.
Um,
Yes. This is the one where he fell off the tower, right, and landed on the
yes,
thing.
indeed.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, that guy. So later on, you'll see that all the trees get cut down, all the nature gets destroyed, and it gets turned into just an industrial wasteland. But this is kind of the before bit where it was still kind of he'd become corrupted. He had all these plans, but he was keeping it secret from the world.
Wait. So
But
yeah,
it's a pretty.
you guys are. So what's the time period for you guys? You obviously have chosen an era, right?
So how to explain it? So this is set a couple of years after the birthday party you see right at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring, right, for Bilbo.
Mm-hmm.
So Bilbo puts on the ring, he disappears, he goes off to Rivendell, and he leaves Frodo in charge of Bag End. So it's set a few years after that, but something that the movies don't get across, that it was in fact, I think it was 17 years or 18 years between the party and when Frodo ends up leaving the Shire with the ring and going to Rivendell and
Really?
all the Lord of the Rings. Yeah, it's a long period of time between the birthday party and the rest of the story happening. So we're kind of in that in between period.
Gotcha.
So things are beginning to kind of heat up, right? Like all the preparations for the war are kind of happening, but there's not like a hot war, so to speak, that started.
Yeah, this is I might just like hop on here while I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know. I just want to like walk around some of these places.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to explore.
Distracted. How do you build when there's just crazy shit like this? That I would just want to walk around all the time. I wouldn't even want to build.
A lot of people do. A lot of people like, they're builder and stuff. Obviously, they help build, but sometimes you'll just find them, wandering around and looking at stuff, which is entirely like that's fine. Like that's why we do it, right? For people to appreciate and to enjoy the world.
So is your end goal to distribute it? Are you gonna like give it out for download, or are you just gonna keep the server up for like, I don't know. Have you thought about?
So the end game, I don't know. Yeah, as you say, it's a long way away. We would probably, when the map was done, we would give it out for download. Obviously, we wouldn't charge anything because that would be dangerous waters copyright wise, right? But yeah, no, we would eventually distribute it for download. Some people ask, will ask, why can't we? Can you give it out for download now? And what we always say to that is, well, it's a constantly developing map, right? We're always building new stuff.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't really be any point in giving out a download because like the next week it would be outdated. And additionally, it's already 30 gigs. So for us to continually provide an updated download, would be just ridiculous, right? So, and also the other thing is we want to encourage people to, actually join and look around instead of just downloading it.
For sure.
So there's a few reasons we don't do it, but it's available for the public. There's no whitelist at all. You can look around. So
have you done any other big sort of like have you done like magazine interviews or anything like that?
There was one back in the day. I think it was with a magazine called PC Gamer. I think it was in the UK. I think it was PC Gamer. It was It was Games Master. That was it in the UK. So yeah, we had actually like a few pages on there. There was a journalist who took an interest in us and did an interview. But that was not our only print media kind of appearance. Beyond that, there's been quite a lot of a few videos on YouTube that have done reasonably well. The biggest exposure we ever got, in fact, was an album of the Shire that I put out back in like 2015, I think it was. we just finished the Shire for the first time, and I put out an album. I wasn't expecting much, and it got like 500,000 views.
Like on Reddit or something?
It was on Imgur originally. Like this community on there picked it up, but then it was picked up on Reddit, and a lot more people saw it that way too.
Oh wow!
That was the most exposure we ever got, and then beyond that, there's been some stuff over the years, in the tens of thousands of views, but never huge amounts. And I kind of mixed feelings on that one. Like obviously, I want as many people to see the world as I can, but my worry is if we got like a huge amount of attention suddenly, I don't know if we would have the facilities or the capacity to handle that many people coming online. So the kind of activity that we're at the moment is sustainable, and we would need to kind of build up to a bigger level of activity over time, slowly, right, rather than just going viral out of nowhere. So that's an interesting aspect of community, running a community like this.
Yeah, that's something that I think isn't a lot of people like. The idea of going viral is very enticing, right? But you're right, it does come with the consequences of managing that newfound community and integrating them into the one that you already have. It's a tightrope you gotta walk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I think I hit. I mean, obviously, there's a fucking ton more that we could go over.
Yeah, exactly. You could spend literally days looking around this map and looking at all the different builds. It's not feasible in a single video. And we always, whenever I do a video on here or do a video with someone, I always say to the end, if you guys want to see more, I encourage you to come on and look around for yourself, because it's the only way. It's the only way to see the server properly is to really just get in there and look at the details and to explore for yourself and walk around the world. And there's no better way of seeing it. So, highly encourage you guys to come on.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. Obviously I'll be on the server, but I'll maybe get a little bit more footage from there. But you did. This is amazing. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you for letting me do this.
No problems at all. Thank you for coming on.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that tour, man. I do appreciate it. Where can people find you, and more importantly, the server? What's the website?
So the website is ardacraft.me. Ardacraft, ARDA, and then just craft, as in Minecraft. You can find us on there. You can find us on any social media space. You get to shake a stick out. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit. We have all of them. So yeah, anywhere on there, and you can join. As I said, we've got a mod pack. We've got a launcher, which makes it very easy to join. And you can look around our world. There are signs that spawn, so you can explore the world and kind of see it all for yourself. In fact, something I didn't show you during our tour is we have a little mini map of the world, which shows what has and hasn't been done. So you can walk to it, you can look at each individual area, and then you can read the signs and get to those areas yourself. So it's all very intuitive. We have a dynamic map as well, so you won't get lost. And our player base are always there to help in case you have any further questions. So yeah, I encourage you to hop on.
Yeah, as do I. It's really great. Like you said, there's no whitelist, so you can just hop on, warp around, take a look. If you're interested, apply for Builder. And that'll all be in the description down below. Please do check it out. Thank you so much for being on. I do appreciate it.
No problems at all. Thank you.